The committee hearing for Pete Hegseth just ended, and here's a recap. If you don't know who Pete Hegseth is, he is Trump's pick for Secretary of Defense, and how the process goes is that they start in committee, where a lot of the senators ask questions. The committee will then take a vote on it. That didn't happen today, but after they vote, then it can go to the whole Senate floor. Now, I'm going to tell you straight up right now, depending on what 30-second clip you see from like this 5-hour hearing, you're going to think that your side either won or lost. But I'm going to try to give you a well-balanced perspective. During his opening statement, there were 3 different outbursts.
He, like me, wants a Pentagon laser-focused on lethality, meritocracy, warfighting, accountability, and readiness.
Things quickly heated up when Senator Kaine insinuated that since Pete Hegseth has had failed marriages and, made an oath under marriage, and he broke that oath, that he's somehow going to do that when he's Secretary of Defense and break his oath of office.
Each of your weddings, you've pledged to be faithful to your wife. You've taken an oath to do that, haven't you? Senator, as I've acknowledged to everyone in this committee, not a perfect person, not claiming to be. But no, I just asked a simple question. You've taken an oath, like you would take an oath to be Secretary of Defense on all of your weddings, to be faithful to your wife. Is that correct? I have failed in things in my life, and thankfully I'm redeemed by my Lord.
What I gather, Pete Hegseth has admitted to have a drinking problem in the past, but now he says he doesn't drink, and this is what this senator had to say.
Frankly, as Secretary, you will be on the job 24/7. You recently promised some of my Republican colleagues that you stopped drinking and won't drink if confirmed, correct?
Absolutely.
Will you resign as Secretary of Defense if you drink on the job, which is a 24/7 position?
I've made this commitment on behalf of
Will you resign as Secretary of Defense
I've made
if
this
you drink
commitment on
on the
behalf
job?
of the men and women I'm serving.
I'm not
because it's the
hearing-
most important deployment
I'm not
of my
hearing an
life.
answer to my question, so I'm going to move on.
And the next senator was Gary Peters, which at first I was like, wow, he's actually doing great. He's my senator. And I thought he was really just trying to be bipartisan and get to know Pete Hegseth. And then things really turned.
Just curious. So you had 8 there. What's the largest number of people you've ever supervised or had in an organization in your career?
Not 3 million.
No,
Senator.
I don't expect that. Very few people have ever had that experience. But how many? It's a straight up question.
I think we had over 100 full-time staff at Concerned Vets for America, roughly, with thousands of volunteers.
So 100
I was
people.
also a headquarters company commander, which would have been
Okay, that's fine.
a couple of hundred.
Couple-
Nothing remotely near the size of the Defense Department. I would acknowledge that.
Actually, not remotely near even a medium-sized company in America, let alone a big company in America, especially a major corporation. And we're hiring you to be the CEO of one of the most complex, largest organizations in the world. We're the board of directors here. I don't know of any corporate board of directors that would hire a CEO for a major company if they came and said, I supervised 100 people.
Now, I actually think that's good criticism, other than the fact that many, many Democrats have been criticizing Trump for picking people for his cabinet that are billionaires and run big companies. Now, the criticism for Hegseth is that he hasn't run a big company before. And then this happened.
You have not convinced me that you're able to take on this tremendous responsibility with a complex organization and having little or no significant management experience.
Senator, I'm grateful to be hired by one of the most successful CEOs in American history. Should that be confirmed?
Mr. Hegseth, it seems to me that you've supervised far more people than the average United States senator supervises today.
So that was really funny. Now, Senator Mullen took all of that from the Democrats, all of that criticism, and had this comment.
Especially on the other side of the aisle, be talking about his qualifications, not going to lead the secretary or be the Secretary of Defense, and yet your qualifications aren't any better. You guys aren't any more qualified to be the senator than I'm qualified to be the senator, except we're lucky enough to be here. But let me read you what the qualifications of the Secretary of Defense is, because I Googled it, and and went through a lot of different sites, and really it's hard to see. But in general, the U.S. Secretary of Defense position is filled by a civilian. That's it. If you have served in the U.S. Army Forces and have been in the service for, you have to be retired for at least 7 years, and Congress can weigh that. And then there's questions that the senator from Massachusetts brought up about serving on a board inside the military industry, and yet your own secretary that you all voted for, Secretary Austin, we had to vote on a waiver because he stepped off the board of Raytheon. But I guess that's okay because that's a Democrat Secretary of Defense. But we so quickly forget about that. And then Senator Kaine, or I guess I better use the senator from Virginia, starts bringing up the fact that what if you showed up drunk to your job? How many senators have showed up drunk to vote at night? Have any of you guys asked them to step down and resign for their job? And don't tell me you haven't seen it, because I know you have. And then how many senators do you know have got a divorce before cheating on their wives? Did you ask them to step down? No. But it's for show. You guys make sure you make a big show and point out the hypocrisy because a man's made a mistake. And you want to sit there and say that he's not qualified? Give me a joke.
Now, to be clear, because I want to give equal representation, Democrats did have some good points. So one thing that almost every single Democrat senator said is that they reached out to Pete Hegseth for a meeting before the hearing so they could talk and ask questions, and he did not schedule a meeting with any of them. Another huge criticism is that he made comments in the past saying that he does not believe women should be in combat. This is what a Democrat senator had to say about that.
In your statement, you don't want politics in the DOD. Everything you've said in these public statements is politics. I don't want women. I don't want moms. What's wrong with a mom, by the way? Once you have babies, you therefore are no longer able to be lethal. I mean, you're basically saying women, after they have children, can't ever serve in the military in a combat role. It's a silly thing to say. It's a silly thing to say, beneath the position that you are aspiring to. To denigrate LGBTQ service members is a mistake. If you are a sharpshooter, you're as lethal, regardless of what your gender identity is, regardless of who you love. So please know this to be a true statement. So you say it was a political thing. You say it undermined us, social engineering. I don't know why someone having to publicly say or not publicly say who they love is social engineering. I think having that policy in the first place was highly problematic. And as you said in your statement, do you agree anybody should be able to serve in the military if they meet the standards?
Senator, as the president has stated, I don't disagree with the overturn of Don't Ask, Don't Tell.
Great, because I don't want you thinking, can't serve if you're a mom, can't serve if you're LGBTQ, and then last, can't serve if you're a leftist. The statements you said about people who have views differently than you, that we're the enemy, are you saying that 50% of the DOD, if they hold liberal views or leftist views or are Democrats, are not welcome in the military? Are you saying that?
Senator, I volunteered to deploy to Afghanistan under Democrat President Barack.
At least in this hearing, Hegseth did not say that he doesn't want women in combat. He just said that we don't want standards to be lowered to allow more women in combat, and they explain that here.
Pointed out, an artillery shell weighs almost 100 pounds. An Abrams tank round weighs around 50 pounds. The M240 Bravo machine gun with its tripod weighs almost 50 pounds. The average weight of a full kit, ammo, water, commo, body armor for a soldier is over 100 pounds. Nothing you can do can change any of those things, right? That is physical reality.
Go ahead. Yes, Senator. And I would say the requirements to handle those things in a ground combat unit, as far as standards, can look different than those of a medic or a drone pilot. And so it's not that it has to be the same standard throughout. It's standards to maximize efficacy of that particular position.
Overall, Republicans really focus on standards in the military, and honestly, they gave him a lot of time just to defend himself from what Democrats were saying to him, which is very typical in these committee hearings. While Democrats did have some valid concerns like not meeting with them ahead of time, they also dug into some of his personal life that was irrelevant, really just for views and for headlines. I definitely did not get the impression that the senators have changed their vote at all. They are going to vote how they are going to vote. As always, let me know your thoughts about all of this, and make sure you're following me for more because there are a lot more hearings coming up this week.